Hello, everyone, and welcome to our incredible December Fireside Chat guest speaker with Cheyanne Welton. I'm so excited. My name is Hannah Jade. I'm the community host for Brightly Thrive, and we have an amazing guest here today with us. Cheyanne Welton, also known as the Biohacking Nurse, is a registered nurse, avid traveler, and known amongst the top 50 biohackers in the world. As a young child, she faced several health issues like fatigue and depression, and later on, mold toxicity and Lyme disease. Cheyanne has spent nearly a decade studying with experts on the key to unlocking health. Cheyanne is passionate about bringing key insights on how to hack your health, including biohacks for sleep, light, mood, and detoxification. So excited to dive into this conversation, and thank you everyone for being here. If you are here on the call live, feel free to pop off in the chat and just tell us what your takeaways, what resonates, what you're learning. We love to see that interaction, so feel free to use the chat as much as you'd like. And if you have a specific question for Cheyanne, no matter when it comes up, go ahead and use that Q&A feature, and that will separate your comments from your questions so that I can ask Cheyanne all your amazing questions. So feel free to use any of those features at any time during the call. And again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here, Cheyanne.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Hannah Jade.
Yes. Awesome. We love to do some icebreakers to get to know you before we get into the nitty-gritty of what biohacking is. So, if you could share a daily wellness ritual that sets a positive tone for your day.
I think, and I'll get more into this, is I am really big on light and light exposure. So especially in winter when it's naturally a tougher season for everybody, it's because of our lack of light. So every morning I'm usually trying to find even if I'm up before the sun, is when the sun comes out or when the daylight comes out to go ahead and get that exposure. And I'll go through the benefits later, but that's something that's probably one of the most impactful things for me. And I'll go more into it later.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think that's beautiful. And yeah, especially for those of us in the winter now, which I think is everyone. I don't think we have anyone below the equator on the call. But I think the winter season can be challenging because we have less of that daylight and it's colder temperatures. So, we might not want to go outside as frequently, but yeah, getting that light exposure is really beneficial. So I'm excited to dive into some of those benefits later on.
Mhm.
If your ideal smoothie could embody your personality, what ingredients would it have?
So I'll just tell you my daily smoothie and why I do it, because of the things that I need to support my personality. So, I've had a history of health issues and autoimmune, and sometimes that can really affect your cognition. So I always do blueberries. Blueberries are amazing for brain health, and they're amazing to detoxify neurotoxins. So they actually really can clear brain fog pretty well. So I usually do blueberries, and then I make sure, and we'll talk more about this, is getting your protein in the morning to support dopamine and blood sugars. And so I'll use an animal protein. I feel like animal protein is much more balanced for the human body and less plant fibers and things to cause bloating and things like that. So I use a really good animal protein, and then I'll use some coconut water for electrolytes. And so I can throw into MCT oil if I'm wanting more fat, or an avocado. So if I'm looking at just kind of a balanced approach, that's usually what I do in my smoothie.
Ooh, that sounds so yummy. I love it. And I love how you spoke to how it helps you feel throughout the day and how it really can support all those aspects of your personality and how you thrive. So that's wonderful. And if you could host the ultimate wellness retreat, where would it be and what would be on the agenda?
I think I would definitely choose somewhere tropical because of my obsession with light and how it makes people feel, and then be by an ocean because of the effects of grounding, which I'll probably mention today. grounding is amazing for inflammation and cortisol and can really help. This is kind of a more advanced biohacking term, but there's a book about phases of water and how the body and the water in your body can be more like an easy water, they call it. So it's going to be less inflammatory. And the way to get to that state is through grounding and using like the earth's natural benefits to heal. So I think if I were to do a retreat, it would be probably in Central America because I've traveled there quite a bit. They have amazing beaches, amazing fresh food, and we would probably just biohack most of the day. But I also love community, and I feel like that's one of the best free biohacks is making sure that you have the right community so you're constantly like in healthy dialogue and helping each other improve.
Ah, I love that so much. I think especially, if we have colder temperatures, we're all down for this wellness retreat because it sounds so lovely to be on a beach in a warm
Yeah.
climate with lots of yummy food. I think that sounds beautiful. Yay, so excited to get to know a little bit more of you. And now we can dive into our topic today, which is biohacking. And
Mhm.
we have some people on the call now and some people watching the replay that have no idea what biohacking is. So, can you define that for us and let us know some of the most important tenets of biohacking?
So biohacking to me means like changing your environments to change your like epigenetics or your the way your body's expressing because we know that with autoimmune you can like if you're autoimmune you can feel better sometimes and worse and you really need could pay attention to what's helping you do that. Is it like are you getting enough, nature exposure? Nature helps us turn off bad genetics actually. Nature exposure can show that it's so beneficial and healing. Um, the food that goes into your body, that's a way of biohacking. Like, are you using food that's turning on disease or off disease? Are you hanging out with people that are turning on and off good feelings? And so it's really, I think, having the always studying and trying to find what works best for you because everyone's so different. But I think there are some key players that can help most people move the needle forward in their health.
Oh, I love that. And for anyone who doesn't understand epigenetics, can you briefly explain that?
So there's a term called epigenetics that scientists are saying that you can turn on and off genes. So some people say their genes are like their destiny, but then they're saying now like um, or your genes can be turned on and off with different environmental switches. And so there's hope for people who may have disease run in their families or they have a chronic disease or chronic illness. There are certain things that can like change the expression of the disease.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing and fascinating. And I think also really empowering because I think our old definition of health is that, as you said, we have these genes that we're born with that run in our family, and we're kind of cursed. If our father has a history of heart disease or diabetes or things like that, it's like, okay, well, I'm doomed to experience that in my lifetime. There's really no escape. I can try to eat well, I can try to exercise, but it's just going to happen anyways. So I think it's really empowering that scientists are discovering that, that's not always true. We can actually change some of our genetic predispositions and really optimize our health. So I love that. And it's awesome. So what got you interested and into biohacking? What was your journey with that?
So I graduated nursing school probably almost 10 years ago, and I was very sick at the time and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have an answer. Doctors were just saying my labs were normal, and I didn't have the right panels ran. So when I was 20, right outside of nursing school, I started working for one of the biggest biohackers in the world, actually, at the time. He kind of coined the phrase the godfather of biohacking, Dave Asprey, and he really taught me a lot because he was spending unlimited, he had unlimited funds to basically do experiments on health, and then he would help people and podcast about it. And so I really learned a lot from him about a lot of the concepts that I use today. And then with him, he had struggled from Lyme disease as well and taught me a lot. And I ended up going and getting a panel done, and I had Lyme disease and all the co-infections, which are a huge piece of autoimmunity that a lot of people never get to because a lot of even I think functional medicine is even catching on, but they're still not quite there and they don't know how to address Lyme disease. It's very complex. And so I had to really take my health into my own hands and study a lot of these things that doctors wouldn't teach me to better my health. So, gentle detox methods, light exposure, how I eat, low inflammatory way of eating. Um, there was so much on the podcast that you could apply, like some are free, some are more expensive. And so I learned quite a bit and I experimented. And then from there, I went on my own path and really started looking at environmental toxins with mold toxicity. And that's when I really started getting a lot better of my health, is like learning how to just every day work on these things so that I'm not depending on a pill necessarily or um over supplementing. I'm just like trying to feel better with what's working best for my body.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's so awesome how life orchestrated you to be able to meet Dave and have that experience because I think that especially being a nurse you could have been in so many situations that would have been totally different. So I think that's really cool that you met him, you were inspired by his work and how he was helping others and implementing those things in your life. So that's really awesome and I love how you're now sharing that and passing on your wisdom and knowledge too. Okay, so let's get into it. What are your top three biohacks?
So top three biohacks lately, I mean, I kind of rotate them so I don't overwhelm myself, but in the winter, it's I think year round, but in the winter, it's more important is getting that outside daily light. Sometimes I don't always get it in the morning, but like right now it's super sunny where I'm at, and I'm so excited to go on a walk because you can get better vitamin D exposure, which is linked to autoimmunity as well. So, making sure I'm getting light once a day, preferably in the mornings. This is because when you're exposed to light, something that you guys, if you're autoimmune or even if you're not, cortisol is your stress hormone and it's very, very important. It like not enough of it. So your tanked is like you're totally exhausted, tired, and you're inflamed because cortisol is actually an anti-inflammatory when it's balanced. If it's too high, it becomes inflammatory. That's where you can get more like anxiety, like can't lose the weight you want. So cortisol really needs to be balanced. And one of the best ways to balance cortisol is by balancing blood sugars and light exposure. So you get your light exposure and then make sure to eat more protein in the mornings and get more of your calories in the morning and when it's light outside. When it's dark, I believe ancestrally like our ancestors were sleeping and they weren't like up and eating as much. They were resting and rejuvenating. And that's when like you can intermittent fast more at night. I believe like we wake up, go to coffee, stimulants, and then your cortisol is already out of balance. So the rest of the day, your fatigue levels will be out of balance. Your focus will be out of balance. And with autoimmune or high performance, whatever you want more of those. With autoimmune, you might have to work harder. So I usually will do my two like biggest protein packed meals before dark or before even like I'll have one in the morning and at noon, and then I'll feel so good the rest of the day. And then my third biohack right now, I got a trampoline, like a little one for my office. So I've been jumping in between calls, and that's been great for lymphatic detox. So I'm like gently detoxing every single day, whether that's an Epsom salt bath, jumping, and we can go if anyone has more questions about gentle detoxing, that's something I do every day. So those are probably three biohacks I'm doing right now.
Ah, I love that. I think especially with what we're talking about now, these are low cost or no cost that are really great things that we can prioritize in our life. So the first one you mentioned is light exposure. Getting that light exposure in the morning, um, or throughout the day and getting that great vitamin D is going to help you balance your cortisol and then also melatonin, I think, as well, so that you can stay awake during the day and sleep at night and also have that consistent energy flow throughout the day. And then really getting protein and good nutrients during the morning and especially during the day. That makes a lot of sense. I think I always had my own personal bias against intermittent fasting, but when you phrase it that way and you're thinking about, you know, fasting at night when, we're meant to be resting and relaxing, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And it seems like something that would be easier to implement and allowing yourself to fuel throughout the day. And as, the light is there and your brain is stimulated and all of those things, I think that's really awesome. And then what you mentioned about rebounding, which sounds so fun, great for lymphatic drainage, great for cardio, involvement, all those things. So, yeah. And I mean, trampolines are pretty low cost. I saw this reel recently, and this woman had her interior designer design like a ottoman with her trampoline inside. So it's like
Oh
part
my
of
God,
your
that is
decor.
goals. That is goals for
Yeah.
sure.
So that was
Um,
really neat.
I love how you mentioned Hannah Jade because this is one of the most important. If you get sun in the mornings, it is the best way to reset your circadian rhythm. It's your body's internal clock that helps you with sleep, wakefulness, digestion, and energy. But your sleep will be so much better. When I was, especially in the summer when I'm really focused on morning sun, and you can get it almost every day. My sleep, I don't have to use like magnesium to sleep or any other like natural sleep aids. Like I'm just like out when I need to be. And I've taught that to people in my family who have had sleeping problems for years, and it totally helps them too. And then the other thing about the reason I learned so much about the right type of intermittent fasting and not that morning where you're on stress hormones and coffee and like waiting to eat, I believe that reverse way I say it is because I met a dentist who she reversed her Hashimoto's just by not eating after 6 p.m. Like
Wow.
that's like one of the biggest like wake up calls, I think, for all of us, because sometimes it's hard, right? We want to be social and eat with everybody. And it's like, or the holidays, you want to like, but I think that's why people truly don't feel as well in the holidays because we're eating late and we're eating like not as, high sugar foods, high processed foods late at night. And so trying to flip that and eat your two most healthy meals earlier in the day and then starting to slow that down, see what happens. Because when you have enough time to fast, you can also like fasting can produce stem cells. You're actually regenerating the body and healing damaged tissues and things that happen with autoimmune. And
Oh,
if you're not autoimmune, you're just regenerating your cells for longevity. Like I think autoimmune was my gateway to like really starting to be like, hey, these things help you with your longevity. These things help prevent disease. So like anyone can be doing them.
ooh, I love this. This is so awesome. And what do you think are some of the biggest factors that make people feel sick or make people feel bad? So you've kind of alluded to some of those, but could you just really call them out here?
Definitely the daily patterns. So if you wake up and you start scrolling on your phone, and like I'm not perfect at this, but I realize the times that I need more support and I don't. So it's like when you wake up, instead of getting on your phone and blue light and scrolling and losing your dopamine, you can go build real dopamine. You can go outside and get your morning sun. Or I've done morning cold face plunges. You don't have to have you can just make it. It's free. Get a bowl in your kitchen, put ice water, and you put your face in it. Morning cold exposure can like completely change your day and your focus. And so you can do stuff like that and then have a period where you are on your phone, but limit it. Like limit it so that your brain's working, I think, more to heal your body and not to like zone out. It's to be in your body. And
Mm.
so, and then getting that morning protein, whether like people are scared to have dinner for breakfast, but like Gabrielle Lyon, one of the biggest people I study right now for longevity, she's all about muscle mass and how that can prevent aging. And she has her patients eat steak for breakfast. And I think steak is literally a superfood. It's so amazing for hormones. I think it's um s- so good for the brain. Like when I eat a steak, like my brain is so sharp. So you can have leftover steak. Eggs are such a great way. The protein drink I mentioned with good animal-based protein. So getting that in the morning, I just feel like a person in a week and then the morning sun exposure could be different regardless of the labs they're running and the protocols they're on and things like that. And then one thing when you're autoimmune, you may not feel good enough to exercise, but I feel like walking, tracking your steps for a goal every day. Like walking is what actually healed my insulin resistance years ago. Insulin resistance is really important because it controls your sugars, which can control cortisol and this inflammatory cascade. So walking, I think, is super anti-inflammatory. That's one thing someone can add to their day once you get those basics down. And those lifestyle factors were probably my biggest game changers. And I've got to try a lot of biohacks because of who I've worked for and these expensive things. But these other things that I'm talking about are so much more effective.
Wow. I love that. I think that's so empowering too. Obviously, this topic that we're bringing forward today, we really did want to be mindful of everyone's budget. But I love how you said, hey, I've tried those multiple $1,000 treatments and things like that. And these free or very low cost things are really effective. And I think it just goes back to what you said earlier about our ancestral lineage. I mean, yes, we've moved past where our ancestors are, but in so many ways, our bodies and our brains hold those memories of how we as humans started. And early humans did not have cell phones and did not have high pressure jobs. And I mean, they had high pressure situations to live and access food and all of those things. It was just a different type of stress. But I think, there was so much more outside time and walking and being with nature. So I love that you're calling forward all of these amazing things. And I love too how you're phrasing adding these things into your life. It's not a judgment of where you are. It's really, okay, sometimes I want to scroll on my phone because maybe emotionally I'm struggling and maybe, it's just a brief period. And can I be curious about what I might feel like if I'm going outside instead?
I love that. I love the no judgment part on making the decisions because I do believe scrolling and dopamine can help a person if they're in more of a panicky state. But once you feel good or have inclination or know you need a change, you can dip your face in the water. You can try something new, right? Changing the brain, going outside for that walk before you scroll. And no, you can scroll. You just can't scroll until you get some things done that are going to help your brain and your dopamine.
Ah, I love that. I love that. And can you talk a little bit more about this dopamine balance and different ways that we can really find those natural ways of dopamine? Obviously, you talked about the morning sun can be such a big help. Are there any other, you know, tips and things that we can do to access natural dopamine?
So dopamine's your feel-good neurotransmitter. As we know, it's that motivation feeling. And so I think a lot of people with autoimmune can struggle. And I do feel like there's it's an inflammation response and it can affect the brain. So we want to get inflammation down. So we already mentioned how morning sun can do that by helping the cold exposure. If you want to, you can take a cold shower. Some people aren't ready for that, but you can do the cold face exposure in a bowl at home. Um, so in the winter, we're often like more reliant on screens for entertainment, and you're worsening that dopamine imbalance. So just notice that in the winter, like because we're not like we're inside, we're cold, just be mindful of what you're doing. I personally have set a timer, like there's Instagram timer. I only have 15 minutes a day and it'll say you're out of time. That's kind of how I do self-control, where it tells me, and I'm like, I have to go do something different out, whether that's a walk, whether that's eating a good protein snack. So protein is amino acids are the precursors for all neurotransmitters. So you've got to have good protein, and that's why I've talked about it so much on this. I also like think healthy snacking is fine for blood sugars. So like a beef stick can be amazing, a beef stick and a fruit, or like a high protein yogurt. And another thing too is before you have your caffeine in the morning, you can try to get your protein and notice how that makes you feel. I think it lets the neurotransmitters last longer in the day personally. I just like it's anecdotal for me. So I think a lot of practical tips is just schedule your screen-free time in the day. Like, what are you going to do in your screen-free time? Is it going to be a biohack? You could even read, like, you know, practice something with your brain, use your brain in a different way. I think neuroplasticity helps us build new networks, which is really healthy. And then things like reading, meditation, journaling, those things to lower stress is also going to lower inflammation. And I do believe inflammation affects our neurotransmitters in our brain.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And again, we've dove into this a little bit, but if there's anything else you want to add about the top nutrition tips to really support your health and well-being. So we know protein is really a great one. Any others?
I love healthy fats. Some people do really well with MCT oil and adding it to smoothies, because it's more of like I'm not saying that ketosis is the way to go. For some people, just metabolic flexibility is. So learning to burn fat for fuel can be healthy. So some people will use MCT oil in the day, um, avocados. I love a good steak, like red meats. You have to talk to your doctor, but things like magnesium are super helpful, omega-3s and adaptogens for stress, or like drinking adaptogen elixirs in the day, like reishi or ashwagandha, like drinks that you may find, or turmeric lattes, just to help that inflammation. Um, I think that's kind of I think another thing to stay on track is like I'll have frozen fruit ready for the week. And so I can make protein shakes at any moment. I'll like prepare meals and have leftover animal protein so I can just go grab some steak bites or something like that. I think that's a better way to plan and always have it. So you're not going to grab, junk food or processed food.
I love that. Yay. Um, if someone's new to biohacking, how can they safely start? Are there any considerations to keep in mind?
I think if you're not going, I've seen some biohackers take it way too far and try to be their own doctors, and I don't believe in that. I believe in like having a great relationship with your doctor. I don't think that they're gonna change your lifestyle, so that's up to you, and that's where biohacking comes in. So a few things people can play around with is like their diet variation, like what's making you feel the best. And those tips I gave might help you feel better. So starting with diet can be a way into biohacking, like eating lower inflammation. Another way is the fasting, where you're not eating after 6 p.m. and watching how your body regenerates the next day and how you feel when you wake up. Um, Light exposure. Some people really love the red light machines right now, which I do have one. I think it's great when needed. I use it for anti-aging, but when I really need the benefits, I think nothing replaces the sun. And so that light exposure I think is really important for everybody, no matter where you live and your routine. Another way into biohacking can be gentle detox methods. So I mentioned um, lymphatic drainage. So I jump on a trampoline, but you can go ahead and YouTube. There's a guy who's on YouTube who can teach like 6 point lymphatic drainage. You actually will feel amazing. I like cleared brain fog with this method, and he teaches you basically tap on certain points and rub. and there's like points along the body, so you can Google 6 lymphatic points. That's a great way to promote drainage of toxins in the body. Um, Other detox methods can be dry brushing, using a sauna. Maybe it's at your local gym to sweat out toxins and just promote further detoxification. Lemon water in the mornings is an amazing detox trick for the liver and kidneys every single morning, and that's super affordable. Um, let's see. I hope I'm not overwhelming. I hope this is approachable because biohacking is like a lifelong journey. It's not like an end point, and it's just knowing when you need more support and when you need less. Sometimes when you're like lower stress, you're taking time off work, you're visiting family, like you may not need all these things as much because those are another part of your wellness and biohacking. And I think community and being around like-minded people who want to improve their health is one of the most important things, or else it's so hard to make change when you're sitting there wanting to change your life and someone next to you like doesn't have to and they don't understand. And so if you're on a journey, you've got to get around people who are also like, "Hey, yeah, I'll do a fast with you," or I'll do this goal with you. Like, let's try it together. Like, I have someone here where I live where they're like, "Yeah, let's walk." And I'm like, "Thank you." Like that makes sure that I'm going to be walking, and she walks longer than me, so I'm getting my steps in. I think walking is another amazing way to gentle detox and to build just like longevity. They're now saying not even 10,000 steps a day, but 5,000 steps a day can like reduce risk of mortality, heart disease, diabetes. Like I've had nurses who their clients with type 2 diabetes will walk after every single meal and their diabetes will be managed. They're diabetic type 2s. Like
Wow.
those are the things that we just don't. And blood sugars are so important in autoimmunity. We have like that's something that's not talked about enough and it's very important. So I after a meal, I try not to sit. I'll rather do like 10 squats or walk on my walking pad while I'm working or walking outside.
I love that. I think that's something that we can implement um, in a manageable way because I know that, some people on the call have autoimmunity, some don't. But I think we can all really experiment with what helps us feel really healthy and well. And even if we're not in a great place, if we can get up and start walking, I think it can really make a huge difference. And I know for me, in one of the hardest times in my life and such a flare season, I had a friend who was, going for walks and it worked out for both of us. She was going through cancer treatments. And so we both were just like, okay, let's, we were across the hall neighbors, let's text each other, let's go walk. And, doesn't matter if we can't go too far, but, we're just going to go. And I think that made such a difference in so many ways. Like, obviously, I felt better health wise, but it supported my mental health so much as well. So, a lot of these things that you're talking about that support your physical body are so good for your mental health as well.
I think you nailed it. I think my approach has been more mental health focused, and I've never said it on my page, but I definitely think the brain is a control center of the body and the body can follow. And so what you said, absolutely. The mental health um portion of it is probably the most beneficial.
I love that. And yeah, if you're on the call, like Cheyenne was saying, and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, there's so many amazing tips and tricks. Don't worry. First of all, you'll have the replay. So don't worry about writing everything down, getting it all down. You'll have that replayed access anytime. You can watch little snippets. And I think, too, from my own experience, I didn't know the term biohacking till 3 or 4 months ago, but I've been on this autoimmune journey for almost 8 years now. And watching influencers in this autoimmune space, in this healing space, they've been doing all of these things and I've been watching and implementing and trying things little by little. So I think just give yourself that patience and grace to try things, that really support you. Work with your care team, work with your physicians, those type of things to really support yourself. But yeah, there's so many amazing ideas, but hopefully that feels exciting instead of, discouraging like, oh my gosh, there's a list of like 20 things. I'm not even doing two of those, add little by little. And again, like Cheyanne said, really work with your care team, but also run it through your own body and how you're feeling. And yeah, that was one thing I wanted to ask as well. Are there any ways that your body can tell you which biohacking tools really support you or any contraindications? Like, how can we tune in with our body and with our internal guidance to really know if something's healthy for us or not?
I think that's where I gave the safest tips today because I do believe that those things you can't go wrong with. However, listening to the body is like, hey, if you just are too tired to go on a walk and you really know your inflammation's high, what else can you do? Can you go out and sit in the sun instead and try to regulate your cortisol and your inflammation there? So just listening, so the things I gave today of one thing is feels like too much, try something else, but always try something for yourself daily, in my opinion. Like go do those things. No one's gonna push you to do them. It's up to you. And if you knew that something was going to help your mental health or your physical health out of those things, like I think someone would do them knowing that they're going to get the benefit. I would say your inflammation and your mental health are probably going to be the what you're going to watch for. And so if they're improving, you can keep going. If they're not improving, you can try something different. But I also don't like to do a million things in one day. It's like maybe for the week, it's like what's my biggest thing this week? So my biggest thing this week was like getting my protein in, my two protein meals before 1 o'clock and walking. So whether it was in the sun or not, it was walking. Was it like um, were my other things perfect this week? No, but I had a lot more leeway. Like, for example, like I drank some alcohol last night and I don't always drink. It's inflammatory, but I got to do that because I've been managing my inflammation in the protein and the blood sugars. And so last night, for a little holiday thing, I got to have a drink and not pay for it. So that's where you can get your things that pay off. And I'm still having a great day today.
Ah, I love that. I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I think too, just even bringing that curiosity and awareness, we're deep in the holiday season. We're entering another phase of the holiday season next week. And, there's nothing wrong with enjoying traditions and family time and all those amazing things. And, bringing curiosity to how we're feeling. A lot of times, we can get sick. I'm just recovering from a cold myself. So I think, we run high stress, we run low energy, and just, can make those choices in the holiday season. And as you said, maybe high sugar, eating late into the night, having alcoholic beverages. Again, no judgment. And, can we bring curiosity to how it might be making us feel? Can we have a little protein? Can we get our electrolytes in before consuming alcohol? Things
All
like
of that.
that. So I
Yeah.
think those are really great things, and it is just, bringing up conversation. I think that was the biggest thing for me because sugar's been a big struggle for me in my life, giving sugar up and having that just constant blood sugar roller coaster. And I think the thing that's helped me shift it the most is just bringing compassion to the choices and also curiosity, from a place of not judgment, like, oh, I really shouldn't be eating that. But hey, I know this doesn't make me feel that great. So, do I want to have that? Do I want to have a smaller piece of whatever or, eat some protein first? And just kind of having those conversations inside myself has really, really supported me. And I often notice, not from a place of punishment or like earning a dessert, but if I say, okay, let me eat a protein rich meal first, often I don't want as much, sugar after that, or I might already be satiated and it might just have been a craving for nutrients and things like that. So if anyone is kind of going through that process of questioning their choices nutritionally during the holidays, I just want to inspire you with my very empowering journey. Just kidding.
I love that you shared that because, well, it's one of the reasons I brought up the dopamine today because I feel like there's this mix between the dopamine addiction gets worse in the winter. We're around more sugar and like fun foods. And so it's actually like a lot more of a struggle. And I do believe sometimes when we're craving sugar, it's because we're on a blood sugar roller coaster. It may not be because there's something wrong with us. Like our bodies are like, hey, I need sugar to, because I've been on this and now I'm low, I need to go up. So that's why starting the day with the sun, less scrolling on the phone, getting that protein, you may be super surprised at your cravings throughout the day. Like it's, I notice I'll go from like craving major, like I grew up being a total sweet tooth, and it's crazy how far I've came in even a decade of changing my diet. But I would rather go to for like a piece of dark chocolate now, and instead of like, the really crazy starchy processed foods if I'm doing the things I'm talking about. And
I
I really don't respond well to sugar. Like my inflammation gets higher and the autoimmune symptoms can flare.
Oh, I love that. And I love how you brought in this conversation. And I didn't even understand the relationship between our stress response and our hormones throughout the day and our blood sugar roller coaster and cravings and all of those things. So it may not be just that, hey, we ate sugar and, we're on this roller coaster, we need to replenish. It could be so many other factors. So having those supports in place and trying out new things might even help that transition become even easier. So I love that you said that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. What are some biohacking strategies for avoiding burnout, especially in a work from home or sedentary office environments?
I love this question because from home. So I know that I probably created the things I talked about today. This fits a work from home situation probably a little bit more because I created these things out of working from home to keep my energy up and just stay motivated. So burnout, I feel has a lot to do with your dopamine. So
Mhm.
starting the day without scrolling. Try to connect with people, especially working from home, getting face-to-face connection, like whether a FaceTime with somebody or especially if you don't live with anybody, or like going on walks, planning walks with people has been really beneficial for me. Um, and then one thing in my office is set up to be like being active. So I have a walking pad under my desk. They're like $100 on Amazon. It's one of the best purchases I've ever made because you don't have to get a treadmill. You can roll it under your desk or roll it back away if you want to sit. I also have a stand desk, so I try to work standing up so that I'm not constantly sitting. And I also have the trampoline in my office, so I'll jump. But those, that's been like years of probably building up to that point. So I would say if just have a regular office setup and you're sitting, the first thing you can do is plan like 3 15-minute walks a day. Making sure you're eating and not just working through. I know a lot of people who'll be like, "Oh, I skipped my lunch," and they're like proud of this like hustle culture, and it's like, don't skip your lunch. Like that's not something to be proud of. Now you're going to be on a stress roller coaster the rest of the day. Like, you're not going to have balanced blood sugars the rest of the day. You're probably going to crash later today. Like, is it worth it? And then obviously just like other simple tips are like the light exposure. Like I will go outside and get more sunlight when it is light out. Or I'll work in a room with more light, especially if there's sun. I'm going to be soaking up the sun more in that room of the house that day. So I hope those are all helpful.
Yes, definitely. And I think especially the people they have a great culture of embracing times to walk and times to engage in movement together and those type of things. And I know that it's not always easy to get outside and you might have to really intentionally plan those things. I know that one of my office jobs, it was like a cave in there because it was like in the basement. So I really had to be intentional about, okay, I'm gonna on my lunch break, make sure I walk outside, and it was a concrete jungle out there, but still, it's like I'm getting some sunlight. That's way better than staying in this basement cave. So you might have to make a little bit more of an effort to get outside and might take a few extra steps, but I think it's so worth it. And especially, doing an experiment, running an experiment on yourself. Like one week, just business as usual, see how you're feeling, maybe journal about your experience. How are you sleeping? What's your blood sugar feeling like throughout the day? Are you feeling like you're craving sweets or craving starches, things like that? And then if you take those walking breaks or take those sunshine breaks or, take a moment away from your desk and really engage in your protein lunch. How are you feeling? How are those things supporting your body and really your wellness and how you're feeling? So I think those are all amazing tips that we can take away and really implement now. And again, I think it's just, really intuitive for what our human experience is, like nutrition, movement, sunlight, hydration, all these things are so important and can really, support that physical well-being and the mental. So that's really awesome. Okay,
Mhm.
so as we're beginning to wrap up, I do want to see if anyone has questions. So I know we covered a lot today, but go ahead and use that Q&A box if you guys have questions. Feel free to ask as many as you'd like. And I want to ask, we've really been mindful of everyone's budget, but if you had to recommend some investments and or, like the walking pad, that's $100. That's not super low cost, but also not, thousands. But if you really had to recommend some investments or things that people could save up for that are really supportive for their health, what would be on your splurge list?
Oh man, that's hard because I love gadgets and I love things. But I would say over time, the most things I've used are um my walking pad because I live in colder climates where it can be like I don't know, 10 degrees. And I'm like, I'm not willing to give up a walk for this cold day. So for me, it makes more sense in the cold. If I lived in a sunny area, I don't know if the walking pad would be as crucial. So it's where you live. So my walking pad in winter, my red light box, I really like red light because I just love it's super relaxing. It's amazing for mitochondrial health. It's amazing for anti-aging. Amazon actually has more affordable ones now. At the time, they didn't have them. So looking for a red light, you can like put it near your face every day, especially when the dark days when it's just super gloomy. It really has helped my skin health too. Some people, really like the anti-aging benefits. It's great for thyroid health. So a lot of people do it in front of the thyroid. There's studies on that as well. And hmm, I would have to say the biggest splurge, but probably the most used thing I've used the last 10 years is my pop-up sauna. So I use a sauna called like it's from a company called Relax Saunas. And the first time I sat in, I was at a functional medicine conference and I noticed a difference within, I don't know, 10 minutes that I was like losing a bunch of toxins and I felt better. And so I bought one and I've seen like spots on my towel from detoxing. So I do feel like because I don't live near a gym with the sauna, it's been a great investment. And anyone who uses it, I've got to let family use it, and that's like really fun for me. And when I'm going through any sort of protocols with my doctors. Lyme disease is very important to manage your like toxins in your and the sauna helps you relieve stress while relieving toxins. So I think it's great for any protocol if that's the route you want to take.
Ah, I love that so much. I think, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the sauna and was a little bit nervous to try it, but it is so amazing. I feel incredible after I do it as well. I noticed a huge difference, and I don't have the one at home, but I have held a membership to a sauna before. So I know that's a little bit more of an investment. But as you said, if you have a gym, that's nearby, for you, those of you on the call, does the Strongmind gym have a sauna, or do you guys have a sauna on site? I'm not sure. But hopefully you would have access, or do you know of one nearby? I think that can be such a supportive tool and something that can help in so many ways. So I love that. And for me, one thing that I got last year that has made a big difference in my journey is my acupressure mat. I don't know if you would consider that as a biohacking tool, but it's basically a mat of spikes. So it sounds like, why on earth would that be relaxing? But it really relieves stress and tension in my body. And that has been the thing that has helped my sleep the most, I would say. I lay on it at night, and, just put a blanket over myself and just get comfy. And I often fall asleep on it and then, put it away and go into bed. But I think that, those can be a little bit more expensive in the $100 to $300 range, maybe a little higher for the higher quality ones that, have lifetime warranties. But that feels like a massage to me. So that's worth, its weight in gold because a lot of massages, the cheapest massage is probably $100 at this point.
Yeah. I love that. I want to go find my mat. It's somewhere in my storage, and that makes me want to get mine back out.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so they don't think Strong Mind has a sauna. Okay, well, we have a petition for a sauna at Strong Mind. I think that can be our New Year's investment. I think that'd be awesome to have access to. Yay. All right. So if anyone has, oh, we have a question. Recommendations for walking pad.
Amazon's gonna be your best bet. I got mine on a Black Friday or like a Prime sale. So you'll just have to read the reviews and pick which price point you want and look for sales. Absolutely.
I love that. Okay.
Amazon also, speaking of biohacks, one thing they've started carrying because I used to use it a lot at conferences, they have lymphatic drainage plates. Those are really fun. You stand on them and they shake. Those can be on sale too for like $100-ish, and those are really nice for drainage, like draining the toxins and like relieving like some of the fatigue and brain fog. That's a really fun one. I don't personally have one, but I've used them.
They're great. The sauna that I go to, they have one that you can use before you get into the sauna, so you're doubling the benefits there. But yeah, it's pretty funny. It just shakes your whole body, but you can really feel a difference.
Love it.
I love that. Okay, if there are any final questions, let us know. But we've been given so many incredible tips and strategies and ways to check in with what's supportive for our bodies. So thank you so much for speaking to our autoimmune experience and also just our experience as humans. Because as you said, for autoimmunity, these tools can put us back on that path of wellness and well-being and all of those things. And if, we already are on that path, it can increase longevity and wellness. So I think any human can implement these tools and strategies and optimize our health and our life.
Totally. Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And thanks everyone for the questions. I saw Kim said that she can walk away with some things today and logged into her phone to go outside in the sun and walk for the rest of the podcast. That's amazing. That's like the action it takes. And then you can go like listen to a health inspired podcast to learn about a new biohack or listen to something for your mental health.
I love that. And lastly, where can people find you after this call? How can people follow along with your journey? And what are you working on right now in your offerings?
So I am on Instagram. It's called at the Biohacking Nurse. I'll put it in the chat. And I have just been known to share hacks over the years. You'll see some of my reels are all about the things I talked about today. I'm currently just sharing tips and tricks. I share my favorite products on there. So if you guys have any questions, just please DM me if you have questions following up today, always just DM me and I'll get back to you. And you can go see my highlights. I've shared a lot of I used to work with clients. I'm currently consult with functional medicine product companies now, but you can see just like how people have applied things that I've taught in the past and use it themselves. Some of my reels are like how to um, use walking to decrease insulin resistance, just things like that.
Ah, thank you so much. Yay. And I'm so happy we can still follow along and learn from you after this call is over. And as a reminder, thank you so much for being here live. And if you're watching the recording, let us know what you thought and what you learned. And again, if you're here live, you can watch the recording for a refresher. All right, everyone. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Cheyanne, for everything.
You're so welcome. Bye, everybody.